President of the Castro Street Merchants, Masood Samere.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us for our town hall meeting with Mayor Breed. I would like to welcome you all and also let you know that the Director of OEWD, Director Joaquin Torres, is also here with us. And considering the situation with the COVID-19, also what has been going on in the city, we thought it would be great to have a meeting with our mayor to get some insight and also some questions answered. Would like to welcome Honorable our Mayor London Breed.
Thank you, Masood, and thank you to all the merchants in the Castro. I'm really glad to be with you here today to talk to you about some of the obstacles and the challenges that we're facing as a city and how we're really going to get through this together. As many of you know, earlier this morning, we announced some updates on our reopening plan, including allowing the zoo to open as early as Monday. Next Wednesday, on July 15th, we will have more details on personal services, only those where everyone is able to wear a mask at all times. So we'll have an update for you on that. But all other activities, businesses, and services will remain on pause. We will continue to follow the data and trust science and our public health officials to advise us on our next steps. But I know you are frustrated. And I know so many of your businesses are struggling. This coronavirus is unlike anything we've ever seen before. And on a local level, we are working around the clock and doing everything we can to address it. Many of you have applied for the small business loans and grants and emergency funding to help make ends meet. Through our Office of Economic and Workforce Development, we've been able to help hundreds of local small businesses, but we know the reality is that we most likely will not have enough to help everyone because millions of Californians are facing unemployment. Citywide merchant sales are down by over 70%, and some industries have had to shut down entirely. We are actively working to raise even private dollars to get more loans and grants to small businesses. And we are also going to continue working with our state and federal partners to secure more funding that actually helps small businesses. But we need to face the harsh reality that the coronavirus is going to have a long-term economic impact even as we reopen. And this is why we need to look more broadly at how small businesses start and operate in San Francisco. Even before the coronavirus, small businesses were struggling with our city bureaucracy. This is why I put something on the ballot specifically to support and to help small businesses. We've seen this bureaucracy take its toll, especially during this pandemic. Many small businesses have had to shift their operations, whether it's a retail clothing store now making masks for healthcare and essential workers, or our restaurants setting up new delivery and to-go options, or setting up outdoor dining. We know these changes do not come easily, but we have seen how important it is that we let our small businesses be flexible so that they can adapt to changing times quickly. As we look at reopening and recovery efforts, we need to take this opportunity to make our system work better than it worked before. This also goes for our homeless crisis, a crisis that has intensified due to the coronavirus. I know this issue is important to Castro merchants as it impacts many aspects of your businesses. We know that once people are able to be brought inside, they are in most cases staying put. But the way our shelter system was working before does not work now. We've had to change that system to allow for social distancing and other precautions to prevent the spread of the coronavirus. We know our shelters will not be able to return to their original density or capacity. We have to identify any and all available strategies and resources to address homelessness. And this is why we're moving the most vulnerable individuals experience homelessness into shelter-in-place hotels. We've already placed over 2,000 people to date. We've supported temporary safe sleeping villages, including the one at Everett Middle School. We know that's set to expire, and we are going to try to work with the school district to continue that. We are trying to reopen our shelter system safely, and we're working on emergency funding programs to help people pay rent so that more people don't become homeless, because even in San Francisco, over 153,000 people have lost their jobs. We're trying to continue our efforts to open new beds at shelter sites as well as new permanent supportive housing units. However, we know that we need to prioritize long-term solutions, not just temporary solutions. And this is why we are continuing our push to build more affordable housing and permanently supportive housing. Just this week, I announced a public-private partnership with the Flexible Housing Subsidy Pool, which will match unhoused residents with vacant private market apartments and provide supportive service to ensure that they stay housed. This will help at least 200 individuals experiencing homelessness that are currently in our hotels. This will help them get connected to long-term housing. Not only does this expand our city's affordable housing supply, but it frees up hotel rooms for other individuals that are not in our shelter system. We're also going to need to continue addressing the significant issues of mental illness and behavioral health and connecting people to resources. I understand that many of you have concerns about yourselves or your customers' encounters with people who are in crisis. Our homeless outreach team is still working around the clock to respond and connect people to services. However, we need to do all of this in a time when our city is facing a significant budget shortfall and the needs are higher than ever before. So we do need creative solutions, and we are working to provide those. If the opportunities arise, we intend to purchase additional hotels for housing, which would be a big step forward in addressing homelessness. We are rethinking our homeless strategy entirely because we know coronavirus is not going away anytime soon. I welcome all of your ideas. I'm here to hear from you because I know you have some serious concerns, like many merchants throughout San Francisco, and the challenges with being able to operate in this new environment on top of dealing with the challenges around the street conditions that impact your businesses. These are difficult times. I am just as frustrated as you, and I want you to succeed. So we are here to help in any way possible, whether it's getting people off the streets or working to prevent the spread of the virus, which all of us is doing our part every single day. We have to work together. We have to work together to really get through this. And I just want to thank you for having me here today and really express my appreciation to all of you who have played a critical role in helping us to really not see the coronavirus get completely out of control in San Francisco. We're not out of the woods yet, but we're in a way much better place than so many cities around the country. And that is thanks to so many of you. So thank you all so much. And I'm gonna turn it back over to Masood.
Thank you, Mayor, for the remarks. I would like to ask we already asked the participants to submit their questions to info@castromerchants.com, and we selected a few of them to go over with you and ask you. At the same time, I would like to ask the participants to submit their questions to the chat panel, and we go from that, we go to the first question, and that is, what are you doing to get the homeless out of the Castro?
So I will say that it's been tough. And I think it's not just about a homeless population. I've actually spent some time in the Castro recently at some restaurants and some of the businesses just to get a feel for what was actually happening there quietly. And what I see with the open drug use and the blocking of the sidewalks. And in addition to that, while I was out there, having the homeless outreach team come to the area to try and have conversations with people who they knew, by the way, who have turned them down for services because sadly, they're drug problems. The fact is, it's one thing to have a homeless challenge and then to offer someone services. It's another thing when someone has a drug problem, and in some cases, there continues to be struggle in that regard. We have a Healthy Streets Operations Center, and part of their role is to really go in and break up these large encampments and transition people into services. We have been focusing on the Tenderloin, and it's been quite effective. And I want to be clear, everyone who's homeless has not disappeared, nor do we have the capacity financially in the city to help everyone who is homeless. But we need to bring the Healthy Street Operation team to the Castro. And there's two particular areas that I definitely have my eye on. I'm sure you all are aware of some of the things that you are seeing at the 16th and Market, and also closer to where Jane Warner Plaza is. And so my goal is to get there and to have a coordinated effort, because the one-offs, going out, talking, trying to convince people to move off of Dolores Park Medium and other things, it's not working. So we need a more aggressive coordinated effort. And in fact, I had a conversation with Supervisor Raphael Mandelman yesterday specifically about this. I just asked for a little patience as we coordinate a response to try and help address the particular areas where we know things continue to be problematic.
Thank you. You mentioned Tenderloin. What was the result of the UC Hastings lawsuit, and what changed in the Tenderloin?
So I think timing was a big part of what happened in the Tenderloin in terms of the number of hotel rooms we had available. You recall that at one point, we didn't see a significant surge. And so we had a few hundred rooms that were being reserved for people with COVID that we were able to shift for people who were in the Tenderloin specifically. The negotiation between Hastings and the city was that we reduced the tent population by 70%, which honestly I thought was going to be impossible, because what it would have required is a significant expense. The city is facing a $1.5 billion budget deficit. We just closed $250 million in the just past fiscal year that we just came out of. And I was, of course, very concerned about the costs associated. And I want to be clear that what we did is still going to be very costly. It's still going to have some long-term financial impacts on the city, even with our reimbursements from FEMA and other places. But we were able to go in, similar to what I told you, the Healthy Street Operations Center. When they go into large areas and they develop a team, and they don't just go in the day of to remove it. There's a plan that they put into place, and they attack specific locations. And in most of the cases, we were able to get people into the safe sleeping sites or into hotel rooms, but there were still a certain number of people that refused. And then what they do is they try to move to other locations, which is the thing that we're trying to stop. And so we're kind of following those folks in those various locations. And then we're trying to hold on to the areas we clean up. It takes a lot of people, and we're dealing with COVID. So we got to do it safely so that people aren't exposed. And this is exactly what I want to be able to do. Not just continue to do in the Tenderloin, but I want to be able to do for other neighborhoods, because we know that the Tenderloin was the worst of it, and it's still challenging because the drug dealing and some of the other things are still happening there. But we see underneath the freeway that we cleaned up, it's popping up again underneath the 13th and Mission.
Yes.
We see, just what's happening along Castro and Market and 16th and Market. Like, we see the hot spots where we've actually worked on those hot spots, cleared them out, and then they're popping up again. And so we don't want people to move from one location to another. But I will say that the biggest challenge we have is not just about hotel rooms or money or places for people to go. It's about the ability to force somebody to go to these locations. And that is where I'm the most frustrated, because we have to also make it uncomfortable if we have a place for people to go. If we have Everett Middle School and we have space at Everett Middle School, as we try to transition people, we need the tools to be able to force people to go there. And that's the biggest piece of what we're missing here. And that's one of the most frustrating things that we've had to deal with. But the good news is I was very surprised that we were able to do what we did with the Tenderloin, but it is nowhere near out of the woods, but we were able to do it. And I am hopeful that we can try and apply the same kind of outreach efforts in the Castro.
Thank you. And regarding this issue, where do you think Castro is with the whole program that you just mentioned with the healthy?
In terms of the timeline?
Yes.
I'm meeting with the Healthy Streets operation team later on this afternoon, because as I said, Supervisor Mandelman and I talked about it yesterday, and I apologize that the Castro was not on the radar in the same way that the Mission and the Tenderloin and even the Bayview have been, because of the larger numbers. So we will probably need to get back to you on when that would be, but we are aware, and we want to give the kind of quality time necessary in order to address the issues in the area.
Thank you, because that leads to my next question. That is that we've been working on the shared space program to close part of not the Castro Street, in the Castro District, 18th Street. And let's say we get the shared space permit. How we're going to be able to use that when the homeless are scaring, in a way, our customers?
Yeah, and that is going to be difficult for you all, and it's just like it's difficult even now. The good news is, for some of the restaurants that you have now that I've been fortunate to be able to visit, it's been amazing. It's been amazing to sit outside and to enjoy a meal and to not be disturbed. You don't want people walking up to you, especially it's COVID going on right now. So I think part of what I'm hoping is maybe the Merchants Association can work with us on redirecting resources and having, like ambassadors or some level of security, so that there are people who can kind of intervene. They do that in places in the downtown area. And again, this is before COVID, but we do know that we're going to need to work with you on a strategy to make sure that there are people other than the folks who are the business owners that should have to deal with it.
Thank you. So the next question would be, does city have a plan to how they're going to bring the customers back into the Castro?
Well, we need a plan for the whole city. And I want to just be real honest with everybody. Sadly, we are living in COVID. We are living in a situation that is so uncertain. And the thing that I worry about most is everybody wants certainty, right? I remember when I got super excited that our numbers were doing well, and I made an announcement, we're going to move up the timeline. We're going to let this happen. We're super juiced. I went to the zoo and I said, come to the zoo, go eat at our restaurants. The very next day, because of the numbers and what we saw, I had to pull it back. And that's what we're living in right now. So we all want certainty, because it costs money for merchants to get ready for this. I was looking forward to going to get my hair done and, all of the things that we all want to be able to do. But more importantly, I was looking forward to being able to support those industries, right? Because those people have not been able to do anything whatsoever. They have nothing that they could do within their business where they could generate anything. So I was looking forward to what was going to happen for them. And then I had to pull it back. And I want to be honest that because we are living in COVID, the certainty is going to be very challenging because San Francisco depends on tourism. Our conventions, our visitors for shopping and restaurants and everything that we offer. And I will tell you that people will start coming back. But the problem is, you know, if we have to shut it down again because we're living in COVID based on the numbers, then that's going to continue to be a challenge for businesses. It's going to be very, very difficult to get out there and encourage and to push, even though we will, to get more people to come back, because the more people, the more crowded, the more possibility of seeing a surge. So it's going to be really hard for us. And what I want us to be able to do, and what we've been talking to SF Travel and others about doing, is how do we launch the kind of campaign that's going to get people who live in San Francisco motivated to do things in San Francisco? You know, ordering from your local restaurants and going to, you know, like the zoo is going to open. It's all, you know, they have a whole system. It's all based on ticketing in advance, and you have a time slot and so on and so forth. But there's still going to be financial struggles because the zoo can't open like it used to. A restaurant can't open like it used to because you have to also keep your customers safe. So it's going to be tough. And we're committed to working on a strategy to get more, not just San Francisco local, but Bay Area local, because we still have the best restaurants anywhere. We still have the best shopping anywhere. I mean, there's an incredible crystal shop on Market in the Castro neighborhood that's to die for. Like, we still have some of the best things anywhere. And we want to also encourage people, shop and dine local, shop and dine local. So we'll work with you on that campaign.
Great, thank you. Just want to thank you again for the efforts you've done on the COVID and keeping our city and residents safer than the rest of the country, pretty much because of early time that you put the shelter in place and so forth. And since we are doing so well with COVID response, why is it that we are last to reopen business sectors?
I'm sorry, Masood, what'd you say?
Why is it that since we're doing so well with the COVID response, why is it that we are one of the last places to open the business sector?
Open the business sector?
Yes, meaning that.
Yeah, and let me tell you. So, for example, San Francisco, we were following the state guidelines, and at a point we couldn't go faster than the state guidelines. We applied for a variance. We were granted a variance, and that gave us the ability to, when I announced the moving up of the timeline, when I announced the ability to do that, and what changed was the numbers. The numbers started to go up, and the hospitalizations, we were going like this, and then we started to go like that. And the data showed that we were not headed for a good place. And we saw like 100 cases within one day. And that really drove the Department of Public Health to make the decision that we had to put a pause. Now, they could have said, we're going to back off of the other things that we've done. But of course I pushed back, like, we can't do that. Let's just put a pause. The data determines what we do. And when we're in a better place, we can open more, because from my understanding, and I think what would be helpful is a conversation with director of the Department of Public Health or our county health officer. What happens is the more you open, the more you have people moving around. The more people are moving around, the likelihood that people can contract the virus, and that takes the numbers up, because one person, can engage with a lot of other people, and that is what puts us in a situation where we have to then scale back, because it could potentially lead to a surge that we are not necessarily in a position to handle. Because, and I want to be clear, I fight with the Department of Public Health every day, not just for the economic health of the city and our small business community and the people who can't even open, but when you think about it, this is also affecting our mental health. and our churches and our religious services, and the people who pass away and not being able to have funerals. And, you know, this is taking its toll on people's, you know, financial and mental health. So these decisions are not made lightly. And I just want you to understand that. And I hear you. I'm pushing for it as soon as it's possible to do so safely. I am going to aggressively push the department in that direction. But they also have a public health responsibility. So we're trying to balance the two in order to get the results that we need. And that is a safe San Francisco, both physically, mentally, and financially.
Thank you, Mayor Breed. That's all the questions I have at this point, and I would like to ask you if any thoughts you would like to leave us with.
Yeah, I would just say that I know it's been hard. It's been hard for our city. It's been hard for a lot of people who do massage and hair and nails and, you know, those facials and direct services. It's been hard for even retail, I'm sure, and the expenses that so many people still have to pay despite their businesses being open. I mean, it really broke my heart to hear about businesses who were preparing for June 29th, only to be told the weekend before that they can't open, and the significant loss there. So I want you to know that these are not decisions that are being entered into lightly. And this is not business as usual. So we are making, we want to make plans. It's our natural desire. We want to plan Monday through Friday, 8 to 9. This is what happens. This is how it goes. My kid goes to school. This happens. This is what we're used to. But this is not normal times. So it's time for us to make adjustments and to understand that sadly, as we live in the world of COVID for at least another year to 18 months, that this is our new normal. And so we all have, of course, the responsibility to do the very best we can with our masking, with our limited interactions. And it is hard. It is hard not being able to hang out with my friends and be normal, and to just go outside and go talk to my neighbors and without wearing a mask. I mean, it's hard, I know, for everybody. And I can't even imagine the children and they're not being able to play with other kids. And then the elderly not being able to see your relatives and already maybe living in isolation. So I understand, you know, that this is challenging on us. But we have got to hang in there. We've got to be strong and do everything we can to protect one another. And of course, to push the city to do more to support you. We are here to be supportive. We want you to succeed. We just don't have all the tools right now to make that possible. So even though everyone wants certainty, we cannot commit to certainty. We can only commit to trying to work with you to address the many challenges that you face in the Castro and also that we face as a city. So I'm committed to that. And I want to thank you all for the opportunity to be here today and wish you all the best of health and the best of luck as we get through this.
Thank you, Mayor Breed. Director Torres, anything you would like to add? All good, wonderful.
I just want to say thank you so much, Masood, and to all of the Castro merchants for your partnership. And as you've heard from Mayor Breed, just how important it is for us to work with you. And we'll be in contact with you about shared streets and shared spaces as we discussed, so we can get those issues solved and get some activity outside going safely, in a healthy way and in a fast way. So thank you.
Thank you so much. And before we conclude our program today, I would like to mention all the people who make this possible, all the people in the background that they work hard to make this work. Dave, one of our hardest working board members here in the Castro Merchants, Marianne, Trey, Jorge, all these people who work in the background and work so hard to make this work. I really want to thank you all and acknowledge your hard work for this. With that, thank you everyone for joining us today. Thank you, Mayor Breed and Director Torres and everyone who joined us. Be safe and be healthy. Thank you.
And thank you all for joining us today for Mayor London N. Breed's Castro Merchants Town Hall. For questions, please contact info@castromerchants.com.